This is Jo. Welcome to the tutorial for the Delectable Daisy. And it is delectable, but don't eat it because that's not good. But this is what we're going to be making today. It's part of my floral collection of patterns. There's this one, a rose, a daffodil and a tulip are going to be available. But today we're focusing on the Delectable Daisy. So that's what we're going to be making. So what you need to make that is your 3.5mm crochet hook, and you need to have got your stem ready to go following the simple stem pattern which is on the playlist for this collection. And you need to have got up to the end of that pattern so that you've got 24 stitches round but don't finish off. So we've got 24 stitches around there but we don't finish it off. You're going to need a stitch marker and then scissors, tapestry needle, some stuffing for the centre of the flower there, so some stuffing, or sometimes I use wool scraps to use them up, you know, the little cuttings of wool that you get at the end of everything. So that's that. And then you're going to need obviously your wool. So you need the continuation of the green wool from your stem, so that's for the stem, and then the white double knit wool for the daisy, and then the yellow double knit wool for the centre of the flower. And these are all from Lovecraft's, their own brand, which is Paint Box, all double knit. You only need a small amount, so for the stem you probably need about 25 grams. For the daisies you probably need a little bit more than that, maybe about 30 to 35. And then for the centre, again very little, maybe 20 grams. And it's another reason that this is an ideal pattern if you want to use up any scraps of your yarn. So you can, if you've got any little bits like this lying around, then you can use them up. So it's ideal for using up all your scraps. So what we're going to do is we're going to crack on. Put all of that to one side except the green. So as I said, I've got 24 stitches on this. So I'm just going to put my hook back on the stitch, and I'm going to put my stitch marker around both strands of the hoop that's on the hook, like that. And then what we're going to do this time is we're going to increase up to 30 stitches. So I'm going to increase in the first stitch, so do 2 double crochets in the first stitch, 1, 2, and then in the next stitch I'm going to do 1, and the next stitch 1, and the next stitch 1. So you've got 2 in the first stitch and then 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. So increasing this one for 2 double crochet, 1, 2, and then 1 in each of the next 3. And if you notice, I'm doing it with yarn under rather than over, to make sure that the stitches are a little tighter, because we don't want the stuffing being seen or poking through. So that's why I'm doing it in a yarn under. So if you carry on doing that, increase and then 1 in each of the next 3 all the way around, you should have 30 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the beginning. So back at the stitch marker for the beginning, we've got 30 stitches. So I'm just going to pop the stitch marker off there, pop it around the hoop on the hook. Oops, not around the hook. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the last round of increases, and we're going to increase in the first stitch there, 1, 2, and then 1 in each of the next 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. 4. There we go. So just again increasing the first one, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to do that all the way around, and meet you back at the stitch marker, and you should have 36 stitches. So what we're going to do, slightly different way of finishing if you haven't seen this before. I'm going to put the stitch marker out, and we're going to do an invisible finish so that the finish looks like the top of a stitch rather than how you would generally normally finish by doing a slip stitch and a chain and then pulling the yarn up through. We're going to do this invisible finish. So I'm going to cut my yarn. I don't need to leave a long tail because I don't need it for sewing in anything. So I'm just going to, I've cut the yarn, I've just finished my double crochet, and I'm just going to pull the yarn like that up so it's poking out the top of the double crochet that I've just done. So then I'm just going to grab my tapestry needle and thread that through, and then what we're going to do is we're going to skip the top of the next stitch and put our needle through front to back, both legs of the top of the next stitch. We're skipping one, putting it under the next one like that, and then we're going to come back to the stitch that we've just done where our yarn is coming out there, and we're going to pop it under the back leg of it like that, and I'm just going to pull it a little bit so it matches the sizes of the stitches around it. And then all we're going to do then is we're just going to thread it in underneath in the inside of the stem, and I'm just going to put it back under that one again and just do a little knot just to keep it in, to keep it a little bit more secure. And then that end then will stay inside the stem, inside the centre of the daisy when we join them together. So you've got this nice circle at the top of the stem. The top of the dowel is just sticking out a little bit to give the flower a bit more security, and then that's good to go now. And where the invisible join was, you're going to find it again, is that one there, I think. So that's how good it is, and it just means that you've got 36 tops of stitches to work in, rather than trying to figure out which one's the slip stitch, which one's the chain, blah blah blah. And I always get in a kerfuddle with that, so I like the invisible join because it gets rid of that what's the word, issue there of knowing which is the slip stitch, which is the stitch, and that. And so invisible join all the time. So that's the stem done and ready. So just going to pop that there. And then what we need to do now is we need to grab our yellow. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do the centre of the flower. So just need to get to the centre of the wool now. So here we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to mimic the underneath of the flower here and get up to 36 stitches again. So it's going to be exactly the same, but unlike with the stem, because we started with the stem, this time we're going to be starting with a magic circle. So what we do is we have a loop like that where the short tail is on the top, working tail is off to the left. Get my fingers ready, and then what we're going to do now is pop the hook into the loop. I'm not touching the loop in any way, and I'm going to grab the yarn that's over my finger with the hook head facing away from me. So normally your hook would be like that. What we're doing is putting it like that so I can't see the hook head, and then I'm going to pull it through the centre of the hoop like that, and then I'm going to twist the hook head towards me so that it's now facing me, and then I'm going to very quickly do a yarn over and do 1 chain, and that will secure the magic circle, and then I can work all of my stitches in the center into the magic circle there. If you really don't get on with the magic circle, that's no worries. All you need to do is do 2 chains and then do all of the first round into the second chain from the hook, so the chain furthest from your hook. So you'd do it exactly the same, but you'd do them all into the chain rather than the centre of the magic circle. So what I find key with the magic circle is holding it at the bottom, otherwise it flies everywhere and just gets in the way. So we're just going to do our double crochets, and I'm still doing yarn under rather than yarn over, and I'm doing 6 double crochets into the centre of the circle. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now I'm just going to pull the circle. I'm not going to pull it fully tight yet. I tend to do that after the next round. I'm just going to maneuver that first stitch though, because it's a little tricky to see sometimes. So I'm just going to put my stitch marker around both legs of the loop that's on my hook, get my wool back into position, and then what we're going to do this time on round 2 is we're going to increase in every stitch to get us up to 12 stitches. So we're just going to do 2 double crochets. Come on. 1, 2, just like that. So it's 2 double crochets in 1 stitch all the way around back to the stitch marker, and you should have 12 stitches. There we are, that's 12 stitches. So what we need to do now is I'm just going to pull the centre string from the magic circle so that it's a bit tighter, and if you pull it from all directions it will pull it in tighter, and as you can see then there it's nice and tight. And I find that you can't get that same tightness in the centre there by doing 2 chains, so that's why I prefer the magic circle. So I'm just going to put my stitch marker back around the hoop that's on my hook, and then oops, it's wrapped around now. And then for this round then we're going to increase in the first stitch. This is round 3, 1, 2, and then 1 double crochet in the next stitch. 1. So it's increase and then 1. So 1, 2 double crochets in the same stitch, and then 1 double crochet in the next stitch. So just keep doing that all the way around. You should finish with 18 stitches when you get back to the stitch marker. There we are, back to the beginning, got 18 stitches. And what we're going to do is just retighten that a little bit, but also I'm going to put my stitch marker out and I'm just going to do 1 double crochet in that next stitch. And the reason I'm going to do that is because otherwise you end up with your increases in the same point every time, and it gives your circle more of a hexagon shape. You can see it slightly on this one, so just doing 1 or 2 stitches at the end of the round will stop that from happening, or reduce it anyway. So what we're going to do now is the next round is we need to get up to 24 stitches. So we're going to do 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 1, oops, 2, and then 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 1, 2. So it's 2 in the next one, 1, 2, and then 1 in each of the next 2. So keep doing that all the way around, and I'll see you back at the stitch marker with 24 stitches. that's back to the end of that row, and you can see now it's starting to get that hexagon shape is a little bit more pronounced. So what I'm going to do is do just ordinary double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches to try and move that round a little bit so that we're not getting so much of that hexagon. Put my marker back on. This time I'm going to increase up to 30 stitches. So it's 2 stitches in the first one, 2 double crochets in the first one, and then 1 in each of the next 3. 1, 2, 3. So increase in the next one, 1, 2, and then 1 in each of the next 3. So keep doing that, and I will meet you back at the stitch marker with 30 stitches. There we are, 30 stitches. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to pop the hook out, and this time we're still getting that hexagon, so I'm going to do 3 ordinary double crochets this time. 1, 2, 3, and then pop your stitch marker back around, and this time we need to increase up to 36 stitches, so then it'll be the same size as the top of the stem. So we're increasing in the first one, 1, 2, and then 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 in the next one, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to keep doing that all the way around and see you back at the stitch marker with 36 stitches. And there we go, it's 36 stitches. You can see we've reduced some of the tendency to become a hexagon. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to pop our stitch marker back around the hoops on our hook. And what we're going to do this time is we are going to do 1 round of just 1 double crochet in each of the stitches. Now, though I am using UK terms, obviously in the US a double crochet is a single crochet, but that's really the only difference in this pattern between US and UK, because the only things we use other than the double crochet or single crochet is chains and slip stitches. So it's nice and straightforward. So all we're doing in this round is 1 ordinary double crochet, no increases in each stitch around. So I'll see you back at the stitch marker with 36 stitches. there we are, we're back to the beginning. Now that last round of just doing an ordinary round, what it does is it pulls the centre of the flower in a little bit to give you that little bit of depth between the top and the bottom. So it's an optional round really, you don't have to do it. Also you could do more if you wanted a more prominent centre of your flower, maybe like this one is a little bit more prominent. So you could do none, you could do one, you could do two, you could do three. It depends how you want the centre of the flower to look. So I'm just going to do the one and pop the stitch marker out, and we're going to do that invisible finish again. So I'm just going to cut the wool there. Let's finish with for now. And again, no slip stitches, no chains, nothing like that. I'm just going to pull the wool up through that stitch like that, and then I'm going to get my tapestry needle. And the nice thing about this is very little sewing on this daisy pattern, as you'll see when we go to do the petals. So that's the stitch we've just done there. So we skip that stitch there and we go under the next stitch along like that, and then we go back into the top of the stitch, the last stitch we did, and out the back like that. And then I'm just going to pull it a little bit tighter so it's the same kind of size as the stitches around it. And then exactly the same as before, I am going to thread the yarn through a little bit. I use that to do a knot like that, so that's a bit more secure. And then all of the ends will be in the middle, along with a little bit of stuffing if you like. And then what we do now is we put the wrong sides of the centre, there's the wrong side, and the wrong side of the stem, we put them together like that. And now what we're going to do with the daisies is we're going to work into both the yellow and the green at the same time. So they should both have 36 stitches, even though this one looks a little bigger. It's probably just my tension might have been a bit more relaxed on the centre than it was on the stem. So yeah, don't worry if they're not exactly the same. But also we did do that extra round, so it is going to be one bigger, so don't worry about that. So what we need to do now is we need to get the colour for your petals. And we're just going to tie an ordinary slip knot, pop that on the hook. And then what we're going to do is you're going to pop your hook through any stitch on the flower centre and any stitch on the stem. I'm just going to do a simple slip stitch through and pull that tight. And what I like to do, this is just me, you don't have to do this, is pull the tail back and then chain around it like that, because then I find that that then sits better there. And then what we need to do, just to help us here, is grab the stitch marker again and just pop it around. When you come back to the end, then it makes it much easier to see what was the starting point. So we're going to work into the same stitch, keeping that white strand there. I mean, you could crochet in if you wanted to like that, so that it's over your hook as well as the yellow and the green stitch. Do that for a couple of stitches, but I'm just doing an ordinary double crochet like that. So move that down and out of the way now. So into the next one and then into the next green one. It's a bit tricky at first, but once you've done a few stitches, they line up a lot easier. It's just the first few when you're starting out, it's a bit tricky. So you kind of have to just do one and then do the other. So you've got your yellow and your green, ordinary double crochet. So we're going to do that in every stitch around, but we're going to put stuffing in this one. So what I need you to do is to keep doing this, but to leave roughly 10 stitches at the end, so maybe about that much, maybe a quarter or so of the flower. Stop there so that we can put the stuffing in. So just keep going and I'll meet you back 10 stitches from the end. there we are, that's the last stitch. Whoops, there's the last stitch there. So that's all joined, and then lovely, and all your ends are in, so no more sewing other than the last end once we finish the petals. So now what we're going to do is going to do a slip stitch in the first double crochet of the round where our stitch marker is, like that, and then we can pop the stitch marker away, we don't really need it anymore. What we're going to do now is we're going to start the daisies. So every daisy is the same all the way around, so it just is repeating the same pattern. So what I'm going to do is, there's the double stitch into the first double crochet, so I don't need to just slip stitch into the next one, and then we're going to do, and it's from this point now that it's repeated all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chains. So your looseness of the chain isn't a priority on this one, because we're not going to work into them as such. So if they're loose or too tight, it doesn't really matter. I tend to do them a bit looser to give the petals a bit more floof. So there's the where we just did our slip stitch, so we're going to slip stitch into the next one, and that's the first part of our petal done. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do 5 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to find the 5th chain here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to pop your hook through it front to back, and I have got 2 strands of the chain on my hook, it gives a nicer finish. And then what we're going to do is just yarn over and through both, and you get this kind of 3 strands now. And then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This time we're slip stitching into the same stitch that we just did. So just a slip stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again we're going to slip stitch back into the 5th chain of the first 10. So back to there, yarn over through everything for a slip stitch there. What it does is creates this cup-like texture to the petals, so that they kind of like that. I don't know what you would call it. 3, 4, 5 chains again, and this time we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. So that is the first petal. So you can see it creates that nice effect of causing the petal to close in a little bit, so that when they're all done it gives this nice texture to the petals. I really like it. So that's the petal. So every petal is the same, so it's just repeating that pattern again and again. So we've just slip stitched into that one, so we're not going to slip stitch again, we're just going straight into our 10 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is keeping it fairly loose, and then slip stitch into the next stitch, so all the way through, and then 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then grab your 10 chain, find the 5th chain, not petal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put your hooks through, try and get 2 strands on, but if you can't, it's not the end of the world if you only get 1. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then slip stitch back into the same stitch again, and then 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then slip stitch back into the top of that 5th chain of the first 10 again. There we go, and then 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then slip stitch into the next stitch, and then straight off into your next 10 chains. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So just keep repeating that same pattern until you get back to the beginning. An easy way to think of it is each petal has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strands in it. So if you're not sure where you are, you need to get to 6 strands. So just keep going around until you get back to the beginning, and we'll finish off. So I'm back at the last petal, back to the beginning, and I've got a couple of stitches spare. So all I'm going to do is, and this is a little cheat, so don't tell anyone, is I'm going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch like that, just like normal, and then I'm going to just do one chain as normal to finish it off, and I'm going to cut on this. I'm going to leave a little tail because I need to sew it in well, so I've left a tail about that long, just so I've got a bit more to work with to sew it in. So you can see now with the petals that they really bunch up, which to me is what a daisy does. So their petals all bunch up like this and knock each other out with position and like that. So I really like the finish that you get. So let's just finish this off. So tapestry needle, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to get the end that I've just finished, pull that chain tight, and I'm going to thread it into the bottom of the first stitch where I did that slip stitch at the beginning of the round, and I'm just going to pull that a little bit tighter to try and hide the gap here. So now I'm going to go into the chain, the last chain of the 5 on that last petal, and then into the first chain of the first petal, and again back out of the 4th chain of the 5th chain of the last petal, just so I can pull those in a little bit there and hide the gap that was standing out between them. So then once you've done that, it blends in and you don't need to worry about it all. So just popping the yarn back down there so I can work it in the back to make it secure. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the yarn and work it through the backs, the back legs, see the V's of the stitches around the back of the flower. So I'm just going to go under 1, 2, all of the legs, it doesn't matter. Just put that a little bit there, and then I'm just going to go under the same one again and do a knot there just to make that nice and secure, and I'm going to pop that in the green there and bring it out the other side of the petals. You might have to manoeuvre it because there's stuff in there, and you don't want to poke the stuffing out. So that's there like that. And then when you're finishing off like this, all you do is you pull that a little tighter. It's hard to see, but I'm just pulling this a little tighter, and then you cut it, and then the end disappears into the centre with the stuffing, so you can't see it. So there you go, there's your daisy. So yeah, there you go. So personalisation, I mean, there's so much you could do with this. Obviously this one's got a little leaf on it, so you could add leaves. You could change the centre colour to whatever you want. This one's got a brighter yellow in the centre, so you could do that kind of thing, make that brighter. Also, that is a pure cotton yarn from Paintbox again, so it's a little thicker than the acrylic double knit. For some reason cotton's just a thicker yarn to work with, and I think it might actually be Aran weight rather than double knit, but it gives that centre much more prominent. So that's the one we've done today, and that's the other one. So if you wanted the centre to be more prominent and the petals slightly less prominent, then that would be a nice way to go. You could use some Aran cotton. I mean, you could use a completely different colour in the centre, purple or red, whatever you want. And then obviously the petals, there's a lot of customisation you could do with the petals. One, if you wanted less petals and you wanted them spaced out more, when you've done that last 5 chain and you're about to slip stitch into the next stitch, do that slip stitch, but then before you do your next 10 chain to start the next petal, do a slip stitch in the next stitch, so you've got 2 slip stitches next to each other, and then that'll leave you a little bit more of a gap between the 2 stitches, so you won't have as many petals, but you'll be able to space them out a little bit if you don't like this kind of what's the word, congested like a traffic jam of petals. Then if you don't like that, then that's something you could do. What else you could do is you could change the length of the petals. So obviously these are starting with a 10 chain, so as long as your second number of chains, so like we did 10 on the first and then 5 on the second and joined at the 5th, as long as your second lot of chains is half the amount of that first, and you join halfway up that first lot of chains, then it will work, no problem. So you could make them bigger, you could make them smaller if you wanted to. You could even, if you wanted to, make the centre bit, so these bits here, a bit longer. That first lot of 5 chains, make them a bit longer, so they could be 7 or 8 chains, still join at the 5th there, but then that would make the centre one a bit bigger and just distort the shape of the petal a little bit, so it's not so rounded at the end if you wanted to try changing the shape like that. Obviously change colours. I mean, there's so many lovely yarns out there, rainbow, variegated, just Christmas yarns with the sparkle in and stuff would look really pretty. And then you could change the weight of the yarn. So obviously there's some beautiful super chunky chenille wools available. You can imagine a massive daisy in that with bright yellow, white leaves or whatever colour you wanted to do. White petals rather, and then just massive. You could, if you wanted to use the dowel still, you can get these in about, I think they go up to 30 or 50 centimeters, so you can make a massive daisy, and the pattern would just be the same. You just go up your hook size, I think it's a 10 or a 12 off the top of my head, with the super chunky chenille, and then you've got this massive flower. I mean, how cute would that look? Or you could leave the stem off and make a pillow, and just follow the same pattern. You could leave the stem off for lots of different ideas as well. Keep it. You could make it smaller, make it into a brooch, or make it bigger and into a brooch. You could make it into, pop it on a hair clip or a hairband, a hair bobble, and sew the sunflower, the daisy onto it to make it really pretty and standing out. There's so many different things you could do without the stem and make a key ring or a handbag fob. Handbag charm. There's so much you could do, and it's such a pretty little pattern, little flower, and it's just so easy to do and make your own. So if you do make any flowers from this, if you could do me the biggest favour of sending me a picture of any flowers that you make, just bearing in mind that I will probably share them on social media, so if you're happy for me to share them, send me photos of anything that you make from the patterns. I'd love to see how you personalise them and make them your own. It's a truth universally acknowledged that crochet designers love being sent pictures of what people have made with their patterns. So if you please send me photos of what you've made, that would be fantastic, and an extra bonus point if you got where that quote was from. So there you go, in a wash in a field of daisies. I mean, it's lovely, isn't it? What more could you ask for? So have a lovely time making those. Please subscribe and like the video. Comment if you've got any comments or questions, that would be fab. And have a look at the other flowers that are available. The written pattern is available on my blog for free, but also as an ad-free PDF if you would like, and that's available on my website as well. I'll pop all the links in the description below. Have a fab day, and I can't wait to see what you make. Bye.